Now, as we've been hearing and seeing, many of the refugees are arriving from Syria. Francis Collings now joins us from Kilis, near the Turkish-Syrian border. So, Francis, we've just seen from Alijan some quite tragic scenes of Syrian refugees arriving. Many will be coming through border crossings like the one you're at now. What's the situation there where you are?
Well, of course, the situation here is currently quiet. That's simply because no people have been allowed to cross since March the 8th. Just behind me is the border crossing. It stretches for about a kilometre of a buffer zone. There's another Turkish control halfway down. Beyond that is the Syrian border. There is a refugee camp. Those people who have been given permission to come in and out of Turkey and have passports and have the right papers and are registered can come and go, but that's about it. But let me just give you an idea of how many people there are locally that have come from Syria. The town of Kilis, which is about 4 or 5 kilometres up the road that way, has a population of some 90,000 people. The Syrian refugees that are registered are in excess of 120,000. So that's exactly what the town and this area has had to cope with. But don't forget, of course, that next week it's going to be 5 years since it all started. 5 years since protests began in the south of Syria that have led us to this intolerable situation we have now. It is an incredible situation when you compare back to how this country behind me was just 5 years ago. I was living in Damascus at the time. I was there when the protests started in Deraa in the south, and they were initially protests by children who were later arrested and then tortured and abused. And it's being described by more than one analyst as that being the flame that lit this situation. Very soon after, people started coming across this border behind me at Kilis and streaming into Turkey. And of course, we're now the scenario whereby the EU, as Simon was reporting, is at a stage where it really has got to start making some decisions. We were at a refugee camp about 60 kilometres from here just on last week, a few days ago, and we were talking with the UN Commissioner for EU Enlargement and Neighbourhood Policy, Johannes Hahn from Austria. And I put it to him that so far into this crisis, and bearing in mind 1 million people moved across the water from Turkey to Greece in the last year, so far this year there have been 120,000 people in excess that have gone the same route. There is no